I'm Briony Marshall. I am a sculptor. I am born and bred in southwest London. I actually studied science initially because I found it a fascinating subject, but I'd always wanted to be an artist from when I was very young. Eventually, in my late 20s, I left a career in internet to go back to art school and become a sculptor. And now I work a lot with scientific ideas to look at what's happening, investigate different things, and develop them into artworks. As a sculptor, I do all sorts of different things. It's quite a varied life I live. I'm very interested in making stuff, but also in investigating sort of how the world works and what it means to be a human in society. In this day and age, sculpture doesn't necessarily just mean what you might think of traditionally as an object. Sculpture encompasses installation, some performance can be sculptural, even sound. All the experiences that I've had that have led me to where I am now, I try and use to reflect back and create some good in the world. For me, that means that I feel that a lot of people don't understand science, or they might find it a bit scary. So in a lot of my work, I try and take complex scientific ideas, but make them in a way that people can connect to emotionally and visually. So I've sort of created my own reasons and roles and responsibilities as my particular type of artist. So currently I'm working on a project called Plastic Mountain. I've been working on this for probably nearly 2 years now. It all started with a collaboration with Volunteer for Friends of the Earth Lambeth. We wanted to create something to highlight the issue of plastic pollution. This tied in really well with some of the work I'd already done about man-made materials and what makes a man-made material bad or more problematic than something that's existed in the world for thousands of years already. This summer we're going to be creating on a pavement in South London a large rammed earth sculpture. So this is a rammed earth sculpture. This one's just made of earth, but the one we're going to be making in West Norwood is going to be incorporating litter that we pick up from the area into the layers. And it represents the way that these man-made materials are being incorporated into the natural environment. And then when it starts raining, the earth will slowly erode and the plastic will remain. It's a visual metaphor for what is quite a big and complex problem. We're going to be making smaller versions of them as well in local primary schools. And the sculpture is going to be 2.5 meters high. It's quite a big sculpture we're going to be making. And we worked with the students to unpick why plastic is bad. So there's whole sort of 5 panels looking at its effect on wildlife, how hard it is to recycle, the toxins that leak out of it, and the fact that plastic ends up in your gut. So we need to be mindful of what we're throwing away and looking after this planet that we live on. So there's a bit of a debate in the art world whether you need an art qualification or not. In some countries, like in France, there's a big tradition of artists being self-taught. In the UK, people have far more of an expectation that you would go to art school to become an artist. But I know quite a lot of sculptors who actually trained as architects rather than artists. And architecture is a very rigorous design training. So architecture or fine art would be the best route through. And I think that really helps you you will learn some skills, but you'll learn how to think about being an artist as well. How to apply for funding. So as an artist, getting money is a really important thing, and it's a whole skill in itself, and it took us 3 times of applying to the Arts Council before we got the funding. I've set up a not-for-profit company, so that's a whole other business. I've had to register it with Companies House, but it's very exciting now. I'm a director of a not-for-profit organisation, so all the parts of my sculpture practice that are more socially engaged and aren't about making money, they're about helping the world. To be a really great artist, you've got to have really good work. But you also need to be able to survive financially so that you have time to think about your work and have enough resources. So you've got to put a bit of effort into working out how you're going to make money. And then the third thing is that you need to build a reputation, because that facilitates the other two things. So how are people going to know about your work and find an audience and things. So I work in Wandsworth. I built a studio at the bottom of my garden, which was quite a lot of work, but it's great to have that flexibility to be embedded at home and in my local community. Wandsworth's a great place to live because we have lots of open spaces in the river, and it's a great place to live, but it's also still very close to the centre of London, to the art scene, to the museums and galleries and exhibitions happening in shows all over the place. It's also very useful as a sculptor to live in Wandsworth because there's lots of DIY and hardware stores which I need to go and chat to people and find interesting materials I need to make my work. So I've recently taken part in Recreate, which is a programme sponsored by Wandsworth Council, which provided business advice and development advice for creative businesses in Wandsworth. And it was really useful working with my mentor on how I could further improve the business side of my practice. Because we all need to be able to live, and it's very important to feed your creativity to have that stability of a steady income still coming in. It was also great because it connected me to other creatives within Wandsworth. I'm a strong believer in peer groups being really important as an artist or as a creative, to have that group of other people to bounce ideas off and help each other out. So my role models are really a lot of women who've paved the way for us as modern women to be able to follow our passions and do what we want. And in particular, there's a woman called Kathleen Lonsdale, who was a scientist who discovered that benzene was a flat molecule. She also had 2 children. She balanced that. She was a pacifist during the Second World War, and I just think she was an amazing role model to follow her passion and do what she loved in life, also bring up a family, and also contribute to the world on lots of other ways. So my dream project is to create a monument to Kathleen Lonsdale and also to all other female scientists. And I've designed the sculpture already. It's a molecule of benzene that she proved was flat, but each of the carbon atoms in it is a woman who is stretching and balancing and supporting each other. So it's about women supporting each other. And this is a 9-metre high sculpture that I want to create.